And I'd like to welcome you all to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Housing Consortium Consolidated Housing and Community Development Plan virtual public hearing. We have an agenda that will be placed on the screen for you momentarily, but I would again like to take an opportunity to say welcome to the public hearing. There will be a series of presentations, and at the close of the presentations, we will open the floor for questions and answers, and then we'll also have some information regarding next steps at the conclusion of the question and answer period. So again, welcome, and we'll turn the program over to Ms. Mellon Parker, who is the Senior Project Supervisor for the Housing and Community Services Division of the Community Development Department. Mellon?
Good afternoon. My name is Mellon Parker, and I am the Senior Planning Supervisor for the Community Development Department. Thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to participate in our public hearing. As a part of the requirement for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, we are required to have a public hearing to make the citizens aware of how the city of Winston-Salem will utilize the funds for the Department of Urban Development program funding for community development block grant funds, emergency solution grant funds, home, and HOPWA funding. On the public hearing, we will follow the following agenda, consisting of presentations from Choice Neighborhoods, highlights of activities, which I will present, economic development by Stephen Harrison, housing rehab, I will present that information as well, fair housing, Adolfo Brasino, homeless programs, and HOPWA, Sharika Floyd, Forsyth County Housing Program, Ashley Penderley. And at the end, questions and answers will be answered as well. Let me move forward with the program overview and highlights. The next year annual action plan for 2022 to 23. Under this consortium, as I indicated, Community Development Block Grant Funds, which is CDBG, Emergency Solution Grant, ESG, Home Investment Partnership, Home, and Housing Opportunity for Persons with AIDS, HOPWA. The highlights for this program fiscal year, these allocations are estimates because at this time, HUD has not released the actual funding allocations. So under the Community Development Block Grant Funds, we anticipate receiving $2,168,157. Under the Home Program, $1,348,537. ESG, $188,585. And under HOPWA, $710,304. Again, these are estimates, and this amount of money is based on this year's funding allocation. And again, this is a breakdown based on our home allocation of the cities receiving home funds. We will get $1,065,337 of home funds, and the county would receive of that pot of funds $283,200. The city will also receive additional funding on the continuing care funds, which would be $2,677,000 on behalf of the local agencies providing homeless program services beginning in the fourth quarter of 2023. The city will also expect to receive an additional $211,400 in emergency solution grant funds from the state of North Carolina during this fiscal year of 2023. This is a breakdown of how we anticipate spending the community development block grant funds. We anticipate using the housing rehab funds $1,153,707, which is 41% of the funding allocation. Economic self-sufficiency, $90,000, which is 3.4% of the funding allocation. Neighborhood revitalization, $561,200, which is 21.4% of the funding allocation. Public service, $431,710, which is 16% of the funding allocation. And planning and admin, $381,540,000, which is 14.6%. Showing the pie chart of that, this is how the funding, which is the majority of our CDBG program allocation, goes towards housing rehab. Again, one of our major focus point based on our studies and surveys and information on need, city need, is housing rehab. An example of some of the rehab projects that we have been involved in, a successful rehab project, is the Southgate Apartments. Is one of many. Home program. Again, this is an estimated allocation. Under the home program, housing rehab is again a focal point. 34% of the home allocation will be used towards rehab. That would be $509,437. Housing production and assistance, that consists of some new construction and a down payment assistance, $228,000, which is 15%. Chodo set aside, that consists of community housing development organization, which consists of an organization like Habitat for Humanity. That's $203,000, which is 13% of our allocation. Forsyth County is a part of our home program. They are a part of the consortium, which gets 18.9% of our total funding. They will receive $283,200. Tenant-based rental assistance goes towards tenant-based rental assistance, which goes to halls, which assists with housing tenant assistance, which is $240,000, which is 6% of the budget allocation. Administration is $34,900, which is 2% of the overall allocation. Again, the total allocation is $1,498,534. And again, this is a pie chart showing the percentage of how the funding is used. Again, as with the community development block grant funds.
Recording in progress.
The majority of the funding is utilized towards housing rehab and housing production. An example of housing production is the Enclave 2, which is phase 2 of a multifamily development project, which is very successful and we're extremely proud of, is one of the projects that we worked on with a developer. Also, home funds was also used in a single family project with a nonprofit here in Winston-Salem, SG Atkins CDC. This is a single family homes that were built. Down payment assistance was also used to assist in this neighborhood. And these houses were built on Hardesty Lane, first-time home buyers. Our HOPWA program. We were very fortunate that Winston-Salem was selected last year as a first-time entitlement city to be selected for HOPWA funds. This program was utilized before as a state-funded program. We became an entitlement city last year and will continue to be an entitlement next year. The breakdown of these funds is tenant-based rental assistance, $409,608, which is 57.7% of the funding allocation. Short-term rental mortgage utilities, $70,108, which is 9% of the allocation. Permanent housing placement, $19,456,000, which is 2.7% of the allocation. Resource identification, $2,446, which is 0.3% of the allocation. Supportive services, $66,450, which is 9% of the funding allocation. Administration, $19,980, which is 2.8% of the allocation. Undesignated funds at this time is $122.56, 17.2%. Total allocation, $710,304. Would like to make you aware that the HOPWA program serves 5 counties. And this is again breakdown of how the funds are used. Tenant-based rental assistance, focus again on supportive housing and providing housing to the guests and clients that are under the program. Emergency Solution Grant. The total funding is $188.50, $188.585. Emergency shelters receive $59,585, which is 31.6% of the grant. Rapid rehousing received $90,000, which is 49.3%. Street outreach is received $36,000, which is 19.1%. The majority of the funds for the Emergency Solution Grant goes towards rapid rehousing. Again, as you can see, the major focus point of providing services of most of our programs is towards housing. Choice Neighborhood Initiative, which is CNI. The city of Winston-Salem is committing $500,000 in community development block grant funds per year for 6 years. Under this year's allocation, this is the 3rd year that we're committing these funds. Funds will continue to be used for clearance and public-owned infrastructure and et cetera in support of the development of affordable housing. You will hear more about the Choice Neighborhood Incentive shortly. We will provide questions and comments. You can provide your questions and comments up until June 17th. This is the email address that you will submit your questions and comments to, which is hcsd@cityofwinston-salem.org. We will put that up again at the end of the presentations. The next person that will present will be Kevin Cheshire.
Thank you, Mellon, and good afternoon, everyone. Let me just provide a little bit of context about our agency. Oftentimes that's helpful. Our agency, the Housing Authority of the City of Winston-Salem, is not a part of city government. We are happy to collaborate oftentimes with the City of Winston-Salem, but we are a distinct legal entity. I report directly to a unique board, which is appointed by the mayor. And I use the term unique in that sense, meaning that it is separate and distinct from the city council. With that being said, the Housing Authority of the City of Winston-Salem primarily operates low-income public housing. We've got about 1,500 units in our portfolio, and we administer Section 8 vouchers, which we call now housing choice vouchers, but those are one and the same. We also are thankful to collaborate with the city in the administration of TBRA, which is tenant-based rental assistance. Ms. Parker referenced those earlier in the presentation. So while we're involved in all of those programs with respect to housing here within the city, what I've been called on today to speak to is the collaboration with the city on the Choice Neighborhood Grant, which, as Ms. Parker referenced earlier, is utilizing CDBG funds in the grant implementation. So with respect to the Choice Neighborhood Initiative, to provide a little bit of context about where we are with that, that is a 5-phase initiative, okay? And the objective of the initiative is to take obsolete, aging public housing, which is to say concentrated poverty, and to rebuild true mixed income housing, which is to have multiple tiers of income levels in a more modernized, more functional model. So we are in the midst of phase one. Phase one is the former Brown Elementary School site, which is what we refer to as an off-site phase. It's in proximity to the target public housing site that's being redeveloped, but it is not on that exact footprint. That Brown Elementary School site, we anticipate to see demolition and abatement starting soon, which is to say in the coming months. But the majority of this upcoming year, upon which we are holding this, or for which we are holding this public hearing, we'll see the lion's share of construction being undertaken on that phase one site. So we anticipate completion of that phase one site, that Brown Elementary School site, sometime late in 2023. That is approximately 80 units of mixed income housing. Again, that is going to be the first phase of a 5-phase project. All 5 phases will ultimately result in the creation of over 400 units of mixed income housing. The other phase that is applicable to this reporting period, meaning the period for which we are holding this public hearing, is phase 2. That is going to be the easternmost section of Cleveland Avenue homes. So that is going to be running along the Cleveland Avenue corridor, north and south. Again, that's approximately 80 units. We will be relocating families from that second phase. So families who are residing in Cleveland Avenue homes, they will be relocated either to other public housing sites or to privately owned housing with the benefit of a housing choice voucher. That relocation process will start next week. But once those families are relocated, and we're scheduling many, many months to get that done, then those units, those buildings at Cleveland Avenue homes, the second phase, meaning those 80 buildings, will be demolished, and then we will start construction on phase 2. Again, the same mixed income housing model. So I will stop there. I think that covers kind of an overview of what we do as a housing authority, and I think it covers the pertinent portions of choice neighborhood as it applies to this period. So with that said, I'll turn it back over to Ms. Parker, and I'm certainly happy to take questions at the end of the meeting if there are any for me. Thank you, Ms. Parker.
Thank you, Kelvin. Next, we'll have Stephen Harrison.
All right. Thank you all very much, and good afternoon. My name is Stephen Harrison. I'm the Small Business Development Specialist for the City of Winston-Salem. I work in the Office of Business Inclusion and Advancement in the Business Development Division. And what we do is we provide both technical and financial assistance to small businesses. We also have an MWBE department, Minority and Women's Business Enterprise Department, where we assist local MWBEs with various things, including contracting with the city. So what I'd like to talk to you today is about the programs that we have running, or that we have run in fiscal year 21 and 22 as part of the city's effort to encourage entrepreneurs. The city sponsored a 7th business plan contest. In that contest, 2 winners were chosen. One is an education consultation company, and the other is a beauty-focused marketing company. Both winners were approved for a $5,000 grant towards business expenses, and then made eligible for up to $5,000 in matching funds as a loan. Thus far in this current fiscal year, staff is working with several potential applicants for our small business loan program, including a retail clothing business and 2 restaurants. We are also looking forward to, in the next fiscal year 22 and 23, we are looking forward to conducting an 8th business plan contest, and we have a current submission deadline for that this upcoming May 9th. I will also be around for the remainder of the meeting, and perfectly happy to take questions at the end of it.
Thank you, Stephen. I will report out for the housing rehab, which is our lending division. Under our lending division, we have several programs which consist of housing, home ownership, rehab. We have the home buyers assistance program that we work in conjunction with the county for first-time home buyers. We have the emergency rehab program, and we have our TURN program. So the funding that we indicated for our housing production are funded under our lending division. The next speaker we have is for fair housing, and that is with Adolfo Garcia.
Thank you, Maylin. I hope you guys can listen to me clearly. The numbers that we have for fair housing is, in the fiscal year that ended in June of last year, we had 11 HD cases, and we finished with a total of 726 total calls that resulted in 11 HD cases. Up until March 31st of this year, we have a total of 8 housing discrimination cases, and we have had a total of 440 calls to us. So the numbers, I think, are going to be a little bit, when we finish in June, probably going to be a little bit less than last year. But hopefully, now that we are coming out of the pandemic, our numbers will reflect a little bit more what are our usual years, which is around 12 to 15 housing discrimination cases and over 700 calls for the year. That's my report, and I will also stay here at the end of the presentation to ask any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have homeless programs and HOPWA with Sharika Floyd.
The City of Winston-Salem receives annual funds from State ESG, City ESG, and HUD COC to serve those who are experiencing homelessness in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. These funds are used for diversion and prevention services, emergency shelter operations, short and long-term rental assistance, supportive services such as life skills and mental health linkage, and case management services to assist with housing location and stabilization. The City of Winston-Salem also receives HOPWA funds. The HOPWA program is designed to provide housing and supportive services within a 5-county geographical region to low-income people living with HIV and AIDS. The goal of the HOPWA program is to ensure that affordable housing options and related housing services are available to low-income persons living with HIV and AIDS and their families to assist in achieving and maintaining housing stability, therefore avoiding homelessness and improving their access to an engagement in treatment and care.
Thank you. Next person we have is Ashley Penderly from Forsyth County Housing Programs.
Good afternoon. I'm Ashley Penley. I'm the Department Business Manager for Forsyth County Community and Economic Development. We work in collaboration with the city in providing down payment assistance to first-time home buyers through the use of home funds, as well as preserving the current housing stock and providing rehabilitation assistance to homeowners residing outside of the city limits of Winston. From July 1st of 2021, we have assisted 8 homeowners with housing rehabilitation, and that is in areas from Kernersville, Rural Hall, Louisville, and Pofftown. And we've also used some of that funding in conjunction with funds received through North Carolina Housing Finance Agency for rehabilitation as well. So in total, we have used over $209,000 since July 1 to help with housing rehab. We also have 3 projects that are currently underway, one that's pending bid results and about 16 applications in progress and 5 on our wait list at this time. We've also been working with Matt Forsyth in coming up with strategic marketing strategies for targeting areas that may be potential low-income residents or need assistance with housing repairs that, have dilapidated over the years. So that is our action plan with the rehabilitation program and keeping up that momentum. As far as down payment assistance, since July 1, we have spent over $55,000 in helping 3 first-time home buyers with down payment assistance and moving them into their forever home. So we're excited to keep up the minimum with that project as well. We still have a large need for housing at this time. We have about 35 clients who are approved and searching for housing. So affordable housing is always a need, and we're trying to find strategic ways to work with developers and making sure that we can get these deserving clients into their forever home. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end if you have any.
Thank you. Let's see. While I am going over the next step, if I could get everyone to just sort of sign in under the chat, your name and organization and your email address, should we need to contact you, that will be extremely helpful. But the next steps will be public review and comment period for the comp plan, which will be made available May 19th through the June 17th, 2022. It will be presented to City Council during the committee on May the 9th and 10th. It will go to the Finance Committee and to General Government Committee. It will be submitted to City Council on May 16th. And then we have up until June 30th to submit it to HUD for approval. And the reason that it will be submitted up until June 30th is again because our allocation for our funding for this year has not been released by HUD. And we will not be submitting the document until we receive our final allocations amount for our funding. So at this time, as I indicated at the beginning of this presentation, is that these are our estimates, and we are putting these estimates based on this year's funding allocation. And we are allowed to do this. And once the allocation amount comes out, we will adjust the figures based on that allocation amount. Any questions?
There was a question entered into the chat box earlier. The question was directed for Kevin Cheshire with Hawes. I'll read the question. It said, Mr. Cheshire, can you share any information related to the success of mixed income housing in revitalizing an area? I am wondering about what research says and what factors help with success of such efforts. Kevin, is that something you can tackle?
Thanks, Ms. Newman. I'll certainly do my best. Maybe I'll start with the second question first, and that asks about factors that support success when you're doing a redevelopment project, such as we are with Choice Neighborhoods. Neighborhood investment, right? That's the key. You've got to have partnerships, which I'm happy to report we do. I don't remember just off the top of my head how many partners within our city signed on to support this grant, but it was an astounding number. So we have the infrastructure in place. So that type of collaboration is one of the key factors. The other is neighborhood investment. You can't just go in and take concentrated poverty and build new housing and expect everything to flow from that. There has to be investment in the surrounding neighborhood, right? We're trying to create a sustainable environment. And so I'm happy also to report that our Choice Neighborhood Grant carves out significant amount of money to support that neighborhood investment. So this $30 million grant, not all of that is going into housing. Some of that is going into the surrounding neighborhood, and thankful to have a partner in the city that's leading that effort to identify what those projects will be as we continue to identify other funding sources to support the funding that we're getting from the grant to help build the neighborhood around the housing. To the first question, which is information related to success of mixed income housing and revitalizing the area. So that's a great question. There are roughly 20 of these projects. I mean, don't quote me on that, please, but roughly 20, a couple dozen similar projects across the country. We are the only one with one in North Carolina. And certainly I'm painting with a broad brush here, but overwhelmingly the metrics support reduction in sort of those bad drivers, right? Things that you're looking at as far as high crime and in increases in some of those positive drivers, right? Educational attainment, employment rate, average hourly rate, wage, and property values. So I would just say again, every city is different, and I don't want to over generalize. But generally speaking, the data supports mixed income housing having a positive intermediate and long-term effect in the area that's being targeted. So I hope that's responsive and helpful. Thank you, Ms. Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Cheshire. We have a question. I'm not sure the full question, and the person posing this question is Barry Washington, so I don't know if you need to unmute yourself and elaborate, but there's a question about acquisition. Not quite sure what the actual question is. So if you want to unmute yourself and share that or put more in the chat box, we'll be happy to attempt an answer for you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes, wondering who could we speak to in regards to acquiring some property that could help possibly relieve some of the list that you have, the 35 people who are looking for affordable homes. we have an opportunity to purchase some property that could actually help that. Who can we speak with in helping us to make this a successful achievement?
So I'm going to take the first stab at that. Are you talking about just buying properties in the open market?
Well, no, not necessarily in the open market, but acquiring some property that we might be able to help 5 of those that are on that list with apartments. Or not on that list, but just anybody that has that is going, that is looking for housing, low income.
Okay, we might need to follow up offline because I'm not sure about a list with 35 properties, and I'm assuming you're meaning properties with homes on them, but I don't know if you're talking. Yes, we might need to follow up offline because I'm not sure I'm familiar with the list you're speaking of.
No, I'm not. I'm not talking about property that I'm talking about property that we have access to, that we could purchase that could help 5 low-income families. And I was wondering, are there funds available to help us to achieve that?
I'm going to hop in here. I think you may be referring to my list of 35 clients who are potential recipients of down payment assistance. We have quite a few that are looking for properties. The nature of the market has been a beast recently. It's hard to be competitive in this market right now with offers. A lot of these clients have gone through the process of putting in an offer and then getting, a bidding war and outbidded because it's just so competitive right now. We're hoping that, the housing market will slow down a bit to allow some of these homeowners to be a bit more competitive. But at the same time, there is a need for affordable units that meet the threshold that we're required to stay under. I believe it's $243,000 for new construction as far as the sales price limit. So that's been a challenge. And I think, Barry, too, to follow up, Kyle Haney, our director here, would be happy to speak with you more on properties and how we can, get people into homes.
Did that help the question?
Well, somewhat. We have an opportunity to purchase a 5-unit apartment complex that could essentially help relieve some of those that you're going to be displacing from Cleveland and other places. And I was wondering where there were funds available to help with acquiring acquisition of the property. I think, I don't know if that's being clear with my question or not, but that's about what I'm asking.
So there's not a designated pool of funds to date for that. So I think that's part of my confusion. I didn't know if you were talking about single family home ownership versus a multifamily opportunity. But I would say that if you have a proposal that needs some consideration, then I would say you need to put that together. The city has a development guideline that we put out to developers, and it lists all of the information that you would need to provide. And so I would just say after the meeting, just reach out to the Housing and Community Services staff, and they can provide you with more information about what we do have available to assist potential developers, because I would be curious if this is an acquisition that's ready for immediate occupancy, or if it's an acquisition that requires some rehab before occupancy. So those would be some of the questions that staff would need to have answers to before being able to say whether there's the opportunity for city assistance. We have another question from Twana Roebuck to Mr. Cheshire with HAWS. And the question is, Mr. Cheshire, what connections are you making with the school system to improve schools in low wealth neighborhoods?
Thanks, Ms. Newman. I'll take this, and I appreciate the question. Ms. Roebuck is a thought leader in this space. And with respect to choice neighborhoods, let me say that the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System is a partner, meaning they have signed on to a memorandum of understanding along with us, Housing Authority, the city, our housing developer, McCormick Barron Salazar, and our people lead urban strategy. So the school system has been involved in this grant initiative from day one. We have recurring meetings with school system staff. Earlier this month, we hosted as a city a convening to discuss some of the issues that are implicit in the question that Ms. Roebuck raises, and Superintendent McManus and I were on a panel discussing some of these issues and how our efforts at developing mixed income housing play directly into our efforts to improve schools in low wealth neighborhoods. As far as the connections, which is what Ms. Roebuck asked about, we do have an education specialist who is on the ground at Cleveland Avenue Homes, who is interfacing with families and who is serving as a liaison with the school system. We, of course, are continuing to have conversations with school system staff during these recurring meetings that are focused on education. And then, of course, at a policymaking level, I'm happy to report that I have wonderful relationships with current school board members, and we're discussing the interplay between mixed income housing, choice neighborhood, and education. And I'll add this is not news because it was covered during the grant writing phase, but one of the initiatives that we are taking collectively in conjunction with this grant is bringing New Ashley into our grant area, creating a walkable school for residents of what will become the new Cleveland Avenue home. So I'm really proud of that collaboration and thrilled that new school is moving towards fruition. So thanks for the question, Ms. Roebuck, and I hope that was responsive. Thanks, Ms. Newton.
You're welcome. Are there additional questions that we can answer while we're together? Of course, as Ms. Parker mentioned, we can take comments and questions until 5 p.m. on Friday, June 17th. But while we have this time together, we're happy to answer any additional questions you may have in the meantime. If there are no other questions, then let me thank you all for your participation today, certainly for all of the presenters who shared information about the various programs for which they are responsible, and certainly thank you as well for the questions that were posed. We appreciate your leadership in the community and your dedication to this work. And of course, you'll see on the screen a list of various staff contacts for follow-up. And by all means, again, please submit any additional questions or comments that you have. They will all be included with the final comp plan document that is submitted to HUD for its consideration. So please know that anything that you share actually goes to HUD as part of the final record and part of the plan. So don't hesitate to share your comments or concerns or questions. Questions we will attempt to answer before plan submission, but all questions and comments will be a part of the final plan that is submitted. So if there are no further questions, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in the near future. Have a good day.